Hi everyone, I'm your moderator, Kate Macri, for our closing fireside chat today, The Future of AI is Female, with Kathy McNeill. Kathy is the Chief Strategist for the Emerging Technology within the Office of the CIO at the Department of Labor. Prior to the Department of Labor, Kathy was the Director of Artificial Intelligence for the General Services Administration's Technology Transformation Center of Excellence. So to start the conversation off, Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about why we need women in AI?
Kate, thank you so much for having me. It's such a great question, right? We always think technology is ones and zeros, but here's the thing. Like all technology, AI is a reflection of those who develop it and the data sets we use. As people, we're naturally biased. So therefore, our technology is biased. And there's a wonderful article, Grace Hopper from the Celebration for Women in Computing in 2017, and she showed that Google Translate had he is a babysitter and she is a doctor. They translated that back to she is a babysitter and he is a doctor. So quite frankly, we really need more diversity in the technology ranks to ensure more diversity in the products. So the lack of women in AI has actually affected viability of products. Think about this, 50%, just over 50% of the population is female. So companies are missing out on a lot when they don't look at diversity in their products. So it's important that AI evolves to support the diverse needs of our society and our customer base. And here's some food for thought, and I think the audience will appreciate this. A lot of systems were developed 10 and 20 years ago, and think how we've evolved and changed since then. Some of our government systems are even older than that, 30 and 40 years old. And think of the biases that must exist in those systems. There are data sets that we use today that were developed in the 60s that have women tagged as homemakers when in fact they were teachers or scientists or lawyers on there. And we're still using those to generate meaningful outcome. So here's the thing. We need women and we need people of diverse backgrounds to make sure that we have people doing real technical work to minimize the bias in systems. It's easier to do it right now than to try and do it years from now after the systems have been in place for many years. And you know what? I'd really like some people sitting next to me doing AI work that are women.
So how do we get more women into AI and machine learning and technology to begin to solve some of the biases that have traditionally existed in these systems?
That's a great question too. We need to encourage women to join the technical ranks. And it's twofold, right? We need to provide the opportunities for women to do good technical work, to lead technical teams and initiatives, and we need to create a culture that is inclusive for women. So simply put, we need the women, and then we need women who want to be there, and we need to accept that they have the technical chops to do the job. The American Association of University Women, this is a really interesting fact, said that from 1990 to 2013, women actually dropped out of the ranks of technology. We started out at 35% and have dropped to 26%. And we should all consider why that's happening. So there is some comments from Tracy Cho, and some of the audience may know her. She's a rock star at Silicon Valley. She got technical chops at Google and at Pinterest and Facebook. She has her own startup company. She was quoted in an article in 2019 in the Smithsonian talking about computers and the face of computer science. But she says, the thing is that women are still questioned for their technical chops, and they're treated skeptically, sometimes even with flat out hostility. Who wants to join a culture where you're going to be treated that way on there? But then again, it's not all that grim, right? Because there's still companies that want the diversity, want the good thinking, want women to participate in technical solutions. So here's some things for the audience to think about. 2014, a review of studies performed by the National Center for Women in Information Technology showed across all industries that teams that included women were more creative, more experimental, and more productive than all male teams. An additional 2009 study also found that R&D teams that were gender diversified were better at both meeting deadlines and staying under budget. Now, that's not to say that all male teams can't be good at generating brilliant products and companies, right? We've got Google, we've got Facebook, we've got Uber. These are big companies that were very successful. It's just that when we go to a diverse technology team, we get creativity, and that's important. So at DOL, some of the things that we're doing here, so we have an Emerging Technology Division Director, Krista Kennard. She's amazing. She's been leading some efforts around RPA and bots. Now, we can make some arguments of whether RPA is really emerging technology or whether it's traditional technology or it's automation versus emerging tech. All of those things are true. But here's the thing. Here's the benefit of automating manual processes. We've automated bots in our existing procurement process to the tune of, one of them looks at contractor responsibility determination and helps select eligible vendors. It was 2,000 requests per year, 1 to 2 hours per contract. With the bot, it's 3 minutes with a 2,000 hours of saving. That's one woman annual savings that can be repurposed into more high value work. Amazing, right? So we also have another bot that does market research. It identifies new solutions in the marketplace. It used to be 45 requests, 100 or up to 150 a day, taking 8 to 16 hours per request. 2,000 to 3,500 hours annually were saved when we implemented a bot to do this same work. These are amazing achievements. So when we think about women and what we can do in technology, we need to be vigilant about understanding these additional challenges as we go into technology and become part of technology teams. We need to find ways so that we can have them participate and lead these initiatives so that AI and ML solutions can be sustained now and in the future, and they can be sustained responsibly and ethically with the least amount of bias.
Can you talk a little bit more about how women are shaping AI advancement across the federal government?
Sure. In the government, we have dimensional challenges, and many of the audience know this when it comes to adopting AI, machine learning, and in general, modern technology. We have a mix of aging and new technology. We have aging processes, and we have very complex problems to solve. We have a wide range of customer experiences. The public, has different needs and uses for the government and the services that we provide. We have vast amount of data, and we have many, many different ways that the data is stored. So when we think about AI, and when I think about AI, I like to think about it this missing middle, and we're evolving the missing middle. And what the missing middle is how humans in the workforce interact with the technology and how the technology interacts with them. This is where we bridge the gap between old technology and new technology. So let me give you a couple of examples of what we're doing at Department of Labor to bridge that gap and support the public. So 2 specific AI machine learning examples are at ETA, which is our Employment and Training Administration. AI is improving sourcing and matching opportunities for our apprenticeship.gov site. And what it does is it is a customer-centric design and helps the user select and opportunities through AI. So that's a super tool where humans are interacting with the technology. At Vets, we have a similar tool using algorithms to help veterans find jobs once they leave the military. And for those of you who know, have been in the military and tried to find a civilian job or people who've done that, this can be a pretty difficult scenario translating that experience. So what the machine learning algorithms do is they use MOS code, they translate those MOS codes into civilian language so that the vets can target jobs that will meet their skill sets. It's been very, very successful. So we see these kinds of changes being advocated across government, and women, of course, are leading a lot of these efforts. The public has a more positive customer experience, and we are leveraging the new technologies with this.
It sounds like the Department of Labor has a lot of really great AI initiatives going on right now. Can you talk about how the women in AI at the Department of Labor are shaping these strategies and other emerging tech strategies at the Department of Labor?
Sure. So as the chief strategist, I've been leading efforts to create a future posture for using technology that modernizes the DOL shared services platform, enhances the security on the platform, and creates a baseline for advancing technologies like our data analytics platform, machine learning, and AI capabilities. So within OCIO, we have some very accomplished and seasoned leaders. We've got Krista Kennard, who's our Director of Emerging Tech. We have Julie Dinero, who is our Director of Enterprise Architecture. We've got Mangala Kopa, who is a Director of Applications Development. And we've seen some great results from these leaders. So in particular, around AI, we're using the technology and machine learning to ease business operations for our DOL agencies. We're eliminating noise in different work streams by offering greater efficiencies, and we're shifting staff to higher value work by automating some of that more mundane tasks. So with these strategies, we continue to support the agencies and the mission to serve the public good.
So what tips do you have for women who are interested in getting into AI or who are already in AI and federal government and just need some encouragement or some advice for how to continue their careers in AI?
You know, it's always a tough question, right? Because you want the recipe. What is the roadmap, to use our technical term, and how I get from where I am to where I want to go? And there is no simple answer, and there's no hard answer either with this. So we progress in our careers today differently than we did when we started out, and sometimes it's still the same, right? So the world is your virtual room. Just like we live in virtual reality and artificial intelligence, we've got algorithms to be created and data to be ingested, refined, and learned. Just for example, at Department of Labor, we have so much data. We have 94.8 million records that we are sifting through regularly to yield outcomes. So there are all kinds of roles that I would encourage people to look for, or to go after. Be a developer, be a systems analyst, be a data scientist, be a data analyst, be a data architect, be an enterprise architect, do R&D, be a product owner, be a systems integrator, customer experience, technical project manager, and many others. I mean, throughout my career, I've been fortunate in many ways. I started as a tech writer, and technology was exploding. Today, it's exploding in a different way with AI and ML and modernizing technologies. It moves very, very fast. So I would say, find a mentor, be a lifelong learner, learn from the people you're mentoring. We are advancing so rapidly that there are so many ways to get involved. Just do it. I fundamentally believe that we as women bring such a rich perspective to the technology team, that it's important that we understand our value. In any organization, I also think it's important to be true to who you are and your core values and what you believe in. So if you're looking for a change and you want to get into AI, find an organization or an agency that meets your mission and your goals. Look for organizations where their culture and their values align with yours, and their ethics are the way you view artificial intelligence and machine learning, because of course there's many different ways to build algorithms and solve problems, build relationships. As technologists, we need to always also be technically curious. You know, technology changes. Once again, learn. Always look for ways to learn about the newest technologies and solutions. And you know, I also think it's really important. You know, we're not always going to get it right, and we put a lot of pressure as women on ourselves to get everything right. You're not going to always be right. So be agile. Start fast, fail fast, learn, and iterate. And lastly, you know, let's get our voices heard. Speak up. Volunteer for the tough project, the new position. Be tenacious. I'll tell you, I learned that from one of the younger women I work with. Really be tenacious. And don't take no for an answer.
So I have an audience question for you.
Sure.
How can we facilitate the conversation internally within federal agencies to be more proactive in outreach and recruitment efforts towards women in tech and AI?
That's a great question. You know, I came out of the GSA Center of Excellence and the Technology Transformation Organization. They have what they call community of practices, and they have a community of practice for artificial intelligence and machine learning. And for those of you who are in the federal government, I think that's a great place to go and learn and participate and raise the awareness that we are here and we are, as women, interested in technology, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and we want to advance the modernization of the government through that on there. So I think that's a really great way to do that.
I have another audience question for you. What would you say were the biggest lessons learned in your career in AI to date?
Well, that's a big question. That might take hours to really dissect and go through. I think the biggest thing about artificial intelligence, well, there's probably some dimensions to that too. One of the things, AI needs data, and it needs a lot of data. When we're thinking about artificial intelligence, especially within the federal government, sometimes the data isn't as readily available as we'd like it to be. So I think it's important to be mindful that we need to have enough data to generate sufficient outcomes. The risk of not having enough data is that you get an accidental bias in what you're doing, or you get outcomes that are not, I won't say as expected, but they're limited in their what's been generated. So I think that's a really key component to learn about. The other thing I'd say about artificial intelligence and machine learning in the federal space is sometimes we also are jumping to that domain when in fact a business process improvement tool will do the trick. So make sure that you're using the right technical tool to solve the right problem on there.
So it looks like we have time for one more question from the audience. We would love to hear from you about how you applied your diverse background and skills to your career in AI now. Since you didn't start off in AI, you started off as a tech writer. Can you talk a little bit about how with very different backgrounds can have a really great career in AI in the federal government?
That's a really interesting question. So I think that I've always been inclined toward technology, even from that day as a tech writer. When I was climbing through code to do my technical writing, I gravitated towards the hardest code, the most complex code. I was doing calculations in systems. So I think that's how I I get to where I'm going. But with artificial intelligence and machine learning, it's just the next evolution in technology. And at my core, and it goes back to the core values we were talking about, I believe that technology exists to make the business or the public's experience with the services and the goods better. So that's at my core. And I think that I get to artificial intelligence and machine learning rightfully in that path. In that, think about when we're typing an email in some of our email editors, and you make a typo and it automatically corrects it for you. That is artificial intelligence. And there's a plus and a minus, because if you've been on your phone and it's changed it to something else and sent it, it's not exactly what you meant to say. But that's made a difference in our lives. And that's where I get to artificial intelligence, is trying to help advance where we are today to that next place in our life. I don't know if I've answered that question fully, but that's kind of my thought process. To me, it's just stepwise, step 1, step 2, step 3. Maybe that makes me a coder to begin with. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great answer. So we're out of time for today. Thank you so much, Kathy, for taking the time to chat about AI and women in AI in the federal government. Now we're going to turn it over to Amy Kluber, our editorial director, for closing remarks.